All right, it says we're live. Start us off.
You sure we're live? Because sometimes I wonder. Support us here at ko-fi.com/theblanketfort because, well, let's see here. It is fall in Texas. This means we're only in the low 90s during the day.
Yeah.
But we have to kick on the heating in the at night because it's in the 60s.
Maybe for you.
I haven't actually had to kick on the heating yet.
Yeah.
But yes, please support the Blanket Fort. King Harv's Imperial Coffees. Only the best. And they are the best.
Yeah.
I honestly have gotten really stuck on ordering their coffees and really appreciate the fact that Dave at King Harv's has been so much fun to play with the anthologies. So if you order from them, make sure that you tell them you came from us.
Yes.
Dipper says it's freezing in 83 out there.
Well, I mean, if you're used to it being more than 83. Among the Leaves teas, snarky sayings and pithy quotes, tinyurl.com/among the leaf teas. Again, tell them you heard about it from us.
Oh no.
What?
Almost out of coffee? Those are tragic words. Tragic.
Oh no.
All right, Jim. Over to you. I think we're done.
Hanging off to the side
Yeah.
today.
I'm I am betrayed.
The
He's very
intent
happy.
was to have Gordon Fry and Taylor Anderson on today. But yes, I can talk. Sure I can. Anyway, we've got Gordon. Don't know where Taylor is. He may have gotten pulled off onto something else.
I'll send him a
Happens.
text. I'll send him a text.
Well, I mean, if he's busy,
Yeah.
work does happen.
It's toys for all. Yeah.
My fidget toy is usually drawing or painting, and I'm not going to do that if I'm going to be on camera.
Yeah. So
All
I'm
right,
going to
let's
add
get
Gordon in. So
There
Gordon,
he is.
welcome aboard.
Thank you, sir.
Still no Taylor, so we will just go ahead and start without him.
Texted him.
Uh-oh.
We have reminded
to say.
Taylor.
Yeah.
I do.
So what I wanted to talk about today, and I'd like to thank Nancy real quickly for the graphic. I had mentioned to her we were going to talk about non-uniform uniforms
Okay.
because if you think about history, and both Gordon and Taylor have done a lot of historical work, including reenacting, acting, and a few other things. And hey, Mike, depending on how far
We
you
have a
want to go,
wild Mike Massa in the chat.
Oh no.
depending on how far back you want to go, if you go all the way back to the Revolutionary War, one of the directives to the Americans was, yeah, Mike, I'm well past that age. Thank you very much.
Mike Massa says old NFO needs a damn PT test. SecDef said so.
I couldn't pass one today if my life depended on it.
Point of question, and there's Taylor coming in.
Yeah.
But my question is it Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War? Now that they're changing the
Secretary of War.
Secretary of War matches Hegseth better, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So Taylor Anderson is sort of with us, but
Yeah.
still working on his technical devices. That looks
So
like.
anyway, if you go back to the Revolutionary War, the Americans were told, shoot at the guys with the bright red coats because those were the officers. Because the average red coat couldn't afford the number of uniforms to maintain a bright red uniform.
Yeah, they only got issued one a year.
Yeah, and most of the dyes were not particularly fantastic back then, so they would fade, wouldn't they?
Absolutely. You
Yeah,
end up with a dull, very, very dull brick red.
yeah.
Do we need to change it to this so Taylor can come in?
Well, as soon as he gets the rest of his stuff connected, because I can't add him to the stream now.
Uh-oh.
So,
He's
yeah,
trying.
with the uniform colors, I know you get modern portrayals of what it looked like are generally, well, sometimes they're very wrong. But most of them don't take into account that the fact that dyes, before aniline dyes, nothing was really that color fast.
No.
So
nothing was. What's interesting though is with uniforms is up until probably the third quarter of the 17th century, soldiers didn't want to wear uniforms because that's what prisoners wore.
Yeah.
It wasn't until you get regular armies, when guys were basically prisoners, that you had issue uniforms. Like in the 16th century, soldiers were allowed, they wore whatever they felt like wearing. And you have some pretty wild, like the Landsknecht in the early 16th century, they just dressed wild clothing. No uniformity at all.
Yep. Now we've got Taylor, hopefully.
There he is. Uh-oh, he's scary.
I think I caught a cold from you, Jim, at the convention.
Concrete.
And I was sitting here, okay, what am I doing wrong? And oh, there's a button I need to mash. I mean, I mashed them all. So
well, welcome.
That way, sooner or later, I'd get the right.
What we're talking
Well,
about
hello,
is non-uniform uniforms.
Okay.
Since you and Gordon both have experience with movies and historical reenactments, you have seen and played with a lot of this stuff. Most of us have not, or if we played with it at all, it's through our reading or our studies of history.
Well,
Another one is the Civil War. They always say the Civil War was blue versus gray. Well, about half of the gray, quote unquote, was not actually gray. It was butternut.
Yep.
Well, and then you have different colors of gray. You have a real blue gray that the imported stuff from England was.
Yeah.
You have the fairly blue gray that was like the Huntsville prison cloth. And then you have just, militia gray, and then just a dull gray. So how many grays do you want?
Yeah, and that depends on the material as well. I mean, you wool, you had jean cloth, you had just cotton, just whatever was available to whoever was making the stuff under contract.
Lindsay Woolsey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and there's also a famous example of the wrong uniforms on soldiers leading to the wrong decision made by the opposing commander at the Battle of Niagara in 1814. Winfield Scott was commanding his regulars. He couldn't get blue cloth from the quartermaster. All they had was gray, militia gray. So, okay, I'll take it. I want my soldiers to be wearing something. So they were doing a parade as the 5th of July. For some reason, they were parading and having a tot of whiskey. And there's a British army, and Scott never should have let the British get that close without noticing. But anyway, the British decided they'd attack because, this is just militia. And then when they wheeled from parade march into line of battle, the British general said, "Oh, those are regulars, by God." Oops.
Yeah, that's called a no shit moment.
And they lost.
Yeah.
The British.
And that has occurred more than once. The other problem during the Civil War was the fact that, as Taylor had pointed out, a lot of the uniforms were non-standard on the blue side, and they would fade to gray. So
they definitely faded.
They'd fade to everything from to gray to pink. They became all purple, all kinds of different colors.
At the beginning of the war, everybody was, making their own, uniform rigs up as they went along, not going, and because nobody wanted to be regular army.
And that's the next thing I want to go into is the custom, and I use that term loosely, uniforms. It wasn't just the Americans.
Mm-mm.
The Spanish did that. The Mexicans did that. Pretty much everybody has done that, where somebody was raising an army or raising a regiment or raising a company, and they wanted their people to be distinctive.
Mhm.
And that's where it gets really interesting sometimes.
Well, in the 18th century, a lot of colonels got in trouble because they would change their uniform rigs to suit their own taste and would cut a dash, as they said. They wanted to look snappier than the other guys. And of course, once you've made the uniforms, they're not going to have to recut them or anything like that. So they got away with it, because most colonels, certainly in the early 18th century, would just be given a lump sum of money for uniforms and weapons other than muskets, and they just spend it on whatever they wanted to. Some were using the money for their own purposes, and some of them decided they wanted really flashy looking soldiers and spent it wildly and added their own money to it, in fact.
Yeah, Gordon, you and I talked about, or Taylor, you and I talked about this down at Dallas. And you were talking about some of the Mexican uniforms.
Oh yeah. And some of the battles, the Mexican uniforms were almost indistinguishable from the American uniform. And everybody gets a mental image of the tall shakos and things like that. But the wheel hats that were common in the American Army were also common in other armies around the world, and at that particular time. And even the branch trim sometimes matched from one army to the next, and it could be extremely confusing on a battlefield, particularly once you introduce smoke and just, well, for example, and forgive me, like I said, I have this cold, and my mind is not nearly as, of course, it's not nearly as agile as Gordon's anyway. But when I have a cold, it tends to become so. But Resaca de la Palma, the combat was at such close quarters, and they just kind of came upon each other in the brush numerous times, and there was probably considerable confusion, briefly at least, of whether we need to be shooting at these people or not, because they couldn't keep their alignment very well.
Yeah.
It's when you had to look at the colors, and I mean, don't mean colors of the uniform, I mean the flags, to see who's who.
Right.
And then in the brush, it's hard to do.
Well, not only that, but if anybody has stomped through the areas of the Battle for Texas, or places like the Wilderness or Signal Hill, any of that up in Virginia, your total distance you could see was maybe 20 feet, if that. And
one exception to that, of course, was Palo Alto,
yeah,
which, other than the visibility, absolutely the worst conceivable place that I could imagine to throw a battle.
Yeah.
The cord grass there, for example, it's amazing stuff. It's like walking through waist high steel wool.
Yeah. Yes.
And even with boots on, it's piercing your britches. It's tripping you constantly. We took some horses down there, and we were demonstrating some flying artillery one time, and the horses, they didn't want to go in there. They're not stupid.
Yeah.
And
I'm going to hold you to that statement.
That's debatable. That's debatable.
No, I'm going to hold you to that statement.
Well, that's when I discovered that a good friend of mine, Bruce Frazier, was the world's finest cusser, and because he was in charge of the horses, and we were demonstrating this flying artillery for thousands of school children. We called it the Yellow Horizon because they had school buses lined up for miles. And about halfway through the demonstration, we realized, because we didn't notice it, of course, because he is such a professional cusser, that Bruce was being Bruce, and all these little children. And he was ranting at the horses, of course, because they didn't want to go in there. They didn't.
You got to encourage them.
But then it dawned on us that nobody had noticed, and either they were that inured to that kind of language at the time, which I suppose is possible. Or it was just such a good demonstration of the authenticity of the situation that they just took it all in context.
Yeah.
But
Why not
at
both?
least every other had 4 letters in it.
Well, probably some of those kids were farm kids too, so that wasn't the first time they'd heard that language.
Right.
Excuse me. Sarah brought up the fact about Carolinas, and especially in the Revolutionary War, that was and the Civil War, that was as bad, because a lot of the area that they fought over in Carolina was in the swamps.
Mm-hmm.
And not only was it very short range, it was also very damp, humid, and wet. And people did not understand the fact that, the swamp fox, Francis Marion, was able to do what he could do with so few people.
Because they had gills.
Well, they had all lived and worked in that area.
Gills
Yeah.
and flippers.
Yeah, my family was part of that. So yes.
But
But
also at the Battle of Cowpens,
yeah,
the British Light Dragoons, Tarleton's Legion,
yeah,
and the American Light Dragoons, the Third Dragoons, were basically dressed the same. They were wearing buff leather breeches and green jackets and helmets, leather helmets with crests. And you didn't know who the other guy was, you were you're just whacking at somebody else, whoever you found. But luckily they were really disciplined by this point, both sets. And anyways, by the way, if you want to read about the Battle of Cowpens, there's a great book called Devil of a Whippin' by Larry Babbitt. It's a really, really good book on that. I'd strongly recommend it.
yeah, that is a good book. And Cowpens was a classic example of that because it was so short range. It was literally a battle that was fought from feet apart. And they were melding in and out of the swamp, and you didn't know who was on whose side. And as Gordon said, you didn't know who was who, even if you were standing next to somebody.
Yeah.
Well, that was one of the reasons the uniforms came about, was not only so that you could tell who your guys were, but in pre-radio communication days, you could tell what unit of yours that was.
Yeah, supposedly.
Allegedly.
Well, who was it? Taylor, we were talking about at Dallas. Was it 95th Rifles in England that wore the green uniform?
Yeah, 95th.
Sharpshooters. Yeah, sharpshooters.
Sharpshooters, yeah. But they were almost like a special forces.
Uh-huh.
Because
Special light infantry.
Yeah, the rifles, they had the distinctive uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
Which they got from Rogers Rangers, who were in green.
Yeah.
So So Rangers were always, classically, at least in American history, and British wore green. So Lincoln green, and now it's Ranger green.
Yeah.
Lincoln green which is what Robin Hood guys wore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Long tradition of wearing green.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, my dad was involved in reenacting Rogers Rangers up at the fort at number 4 there in New Hampshire.
Yeah, neat.
Yeah. I was basically support for most of that.
Oh, good.
He had a broken ankle and later a kidney out, and both times I would get into garb and go help him basically to lift and tote. But so my knowledge is tiny.
Well, more than most people's.
Yeah.
That's
But
good.
if you've got a square of blue and white, and then a group of green, and you're relatively sure that both of those outfits are yours,
Yeah.
you know what they are without having to send a runner or the non-existent radio.
Well, and up in New England, everything's green. It's very, very green all of the time. It's not like here in Texas where it's not supposed to be green year round.
From my years in Uncle Sam's salad suit, the M81 God's Own Plaid, I can tell you that our military green doesn't blend with anything.
Well, it never has.
Okay, with the enactors, that green.
But that does bring up another part of the problem too. Is where do your messengers go when you're in an environment like that?
That way.
Huh?
That way.
They go that way.
But look at what's going on right now in Ukraine. You've got guys wearing armbands and stuff on their helmets to differentiate each other because the uniforms are just not different enough.
What was it? The I'm trying to remember who it was wore the leeks.
The Welshmen.
Yes, they wore the leeks to tell one another apart because.
Well, I think both Ukrainian and Russian uniforms come out of the old Soviet warehouses, so they're literally using the same uniforms.
Same
Yeah,
thing.
so it's handy to have something to differentiate each other.
Yeah, but if you look at it, think about going back in time, thinking about the messengers. How do you know where to send a messenger when you're in some place like, Cowpens or Signal Hill or down at San Jacinto?
With difficulty.
You hope that the guy you're sending a message to followed orders and is where he's supposed to be.
What about the messenger knowing how to get there?
On him.
Well, that's why your commander is supposed to be on a hill watching the battle below him.
Often crossing ground he's never crossed before.
Yeah. But what happens when there's no hill?
That's why you send multiple. You have to send multiple messengers to make sure it gets through.
Yeah.
Or pigeons.
Right.
I mean, pigeons are very
Tasty.
helpful, but tasty is probably about right. But when you have a moving battlefield,
Let's not forget the Olympic pentathlon was based on what
Messengers.
they thought a military messenger would might have to go through.
Yeah. Oh, I want to point out something too, is that how badly modern media gets a lot of uniforms. So if you're looking at movies, and Taylor and I can tell you all about this stuff, our boss would always say, well, it's only a movie. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Because,
Go ahead.
Rita hates watching military movies with me.
So, okay, I was in command of the Green Dragoons in the movie The Patriot. Okay, that was my best role ever. Got to raise, train, lead. It was great. But for some reason or another, although all the research was done and we were supposed to be in green faced with red uniforms, the director decided Americans were too stupid to understand that the guys in green with red sleeves, red cuffs, are on the other side of the guys with green and buff. Okay. And so anyway, we were in red faced with green. So the Green Dragoons were in red. Drove me nuts. But, you do what they tell you to because they're signing your paycheck. But if you're looking at movies for any kind of historical reference, don't. Please don't.
It can be as simple a thing. For example, in the Alamo, the Lancers had the proper green valise on their saddle.
Yeah,
and the art director said, "Well, green is not in my palette," and they changed it to blue.
Oh yeah,
just on a whim.
Well,
so
when I was working on The Postman, is
lots of green.
So the Kevin Costner movie,
not in her personal palette.
The art director decided that all the bad guy horses needed to be black.
What?
Yeah. Even though most of them
The Postman?
weren't. The Postman, yeah, the Kevin Costner movie, The Postman, 97, I think.
Oh dear.
And it was post-apocalyptic fun. But so we had to dye our horses black. And I've discovered that Revlon is probably the best to use because it doesn't burn the skin.
Oh,
And it takes 18 bottles of Revlon black to dye a dun horse, a buckskin black. 18 bottles. So, and we had, I know this because we had to do it multiple times because we started in the wintertime and then they blew out their coats.
Yeah.
And then we had to redo it. And then they blew out their coats again. And then we had to redo it. So, so anyway, he apologized for doing that to us, but we still had to do it. So anyway, yeah, there's all kinds of interesting things about uniform because he wanted uniformity. He wanted all the bad guys to look the same.
Yeah.
And we did approximately. But yeah, we got to dye them all black multiple times. And my poor old horse, I remember him, we've dyed him and he's always looking around like, whose butt is that? Where's my horse? Who's this horse behind me? Because he's not used to seeing a black horse on himself. So anyway, there's uniform weirdness for you.
You're loud.
Sorry.
Jim's out of it.
And we had orange uniforms that got progressively duller and duller and duller as the sun and rain did their thing to the
Well,
cloth.
yes.
So yeah, personal experience with such things.
Well, remembering that khaki came
I-
about because white uniforms being washed in India took on the color of the clay that was in the water.
All right. Yeah.
Well, I mean, around here with our red dirt, if you took white and washed it in the water in the Red River, you would wind up with orange very quickly.
Well, usually like if you take a swim in the was it the Platte or Yellow was it the anyway, Little Bighorn, you end up with pockets full of sand too.
Yeah.
There's so much junk in there. So yeah, experimental archaeology. You learn lots of interesting things.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Taylor and I can tell you about that.
I was going to
Trying
say,
out stuff and like, oh, that's why they did that.
mm-hmm.
What a
Yeah.
weird concept.
Yeah.
Like Taylor and the artillery.
Growing up with a family who was doing reenacting, so I was involved from the time I was a teenager, and we had sheep and goats, so fiber arts was one of those things. And there's a lot of things that I'm like, I know, and then realized later on that they're not necessarily common knowledge because most people don't interact with, say, dyes at that level.
Right. Yeah. Well, my poor daughters got to grow up being docents / reenactors at Sutter's Fort in Sacramento, California. And so, yeah, they were always hip deep in that stuff. But that, they understand how cannon works.
I have no regrets. I'm very happy that I had those experiences.
Yeah. Speaking of artillery, I don't know if I ever told Taylor this. My grandmother taught me how to load and fire a muzzle-loading cannon. The little town she grew up in Templeton, California, had a big old Civil War cannon barrel mounted on a big concrete pylon. And her uncle, who had been a Confederate artilleryman, showed her how you load and fire a muzzle-loading cannon. And she, at around age 4 or 5, and she showed me how to do it when I was 5. So I was like, wow, I'm only one step away from an actual Civil War artilleryman. So yeah, I've been doing this stuff a long time. So, but it didn't have any little percussion nipples on it, so it wasn't one of your favorite devices there. It just took, primers.
Yeah. The hidden's patent lock. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. No screw holes for this patent lock. I looked the last time I was down there.
We last time we went to Vicksburg, because there's a large number of period guns there. There's also some that they must have taken out of a warehouse because they they hadn't even polished the casting marks off of them yet. And but most of the ones that were old enough to have fallen into that range of time when they were using the Hidden's patent locks were drilled and tapped for them. And of course that was yeah, we were running around every time we'd see a gathering or a group of guns somewhere. Jim and I would not a different Jim would jump out of the car and leave it running, of course, for our wives to bask in the air conditioning while we scampered over there and copied markings off of the guns, and which they probably they had to thought was the strangest activity they'd ever beheld. And of course, then we kept our mouths shut when they were pestering the ghosts later that evening.
That was kind of you.
We have
Yeah.
Mike Massa in the comments would like to know if he can ask a question.
Fire
Mike,
away.
go ahead. Apparently,
Cool.
Mill SF uniform stuff, which should be interesting.
Quit playing music. Bring chairs.
We
yes,
are.
we are.
And this heifer took off running.
Look, I haven't been painting while I'm chatting with you.
Oh, and
That folks.
Richard Brown mentioned the infamous USN camo uniforms, which
Yeah.
they do hide grease really well, I'm told. Grease stains.
They also hide bodies in water really well.
Yes.
Exactly. If you're
Exactly.
overboard, they ain't gonna find you.
It's always struck me as a little odd.
Well,
Well, everybody got jealous of the Marine Corps when they got their MARPAT.
Right.
So the Army and the Navy all had to have their own weird pattern, even though they sucked. But
actually, you are exactly correct, Gordon. The Navy got that because there was an issue with the polyester below decks. We had an incident in Mayport, Florida, where a chief wearing polyester was down in the engine room when they had an explosion, and he ended up wearing his polyester.
oh yeah.
3rd-degree burns. They never got it off of it.
Oh,
John is over here making very indignant hissing noises.
And the Army went true to the course and got a camo that didn't blend into anything.
Yeah.
So Mike wants to know the Master Bejeweled novels. Thoughts on those? Okay. When rebels and loyalists use armbands to tell forces apart, discussion on how modifying the uniform surrenders element of moral superiority.
I don't think it surrenders it.
The side that changes the uniform from government standards becomes the bad guys.
I would think you would want to be. Everybody always wants to change their stuff. Everybody wants to be a little bit different. In my experience, like my unit when we were doing the postman, we're supposed to look approximately the same. My platoon leader was drawing little skull and crossbones on our sleeves, showing how many kills we'd had and stuff like that. You just do weird stuff. You can say, write "Born to Kill" on your helmet cover, or
Well, here, the closest example I can think of is the non-regulation red stripes that were applied to artillery during the Mexican War, especially around the wheel hats.
Mm-hmm.
These things, I mean, if anything, that would, especially if you got away with it, we're special, we're different. And so, the fact that you were getting away with it might actually increase your sense of being special within a group.
Well,
that's the only in my tortured, cold, riddled logic, that's probably the best answer I can think of.
If Mike's saying if both sides claim to be legitimate legal authority, does modifying the uniform affect the perception of them being legal authority.
That's a
I
good
think
point.
that's where he's going.
Okay, that's different.
I think that's where he's going.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
he's an author. He's an author, so it's hard to understand him sometimes.
That's a really good question, and I don't know, but I know that stuff like cool mustaches were the dragoon thing, so that you could be different from legs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or
Out of cavalry when I in the 80s, out of rag mustaches were regulation.
Yeah, so that's what you do.
You may have noticed Gordon keeps getting these little spurs in regarding, pardon the pun, horses. And this is all based many years ago when we first met, and way back in the middle of the last century. And
Well, no, it was before that. That was when we were on San Juan Hill.
Yeah, and I had told him that there was only one thing that he needed to know about horses, and he, of course, he was, well, obviously there's way more than one thing, but he just looked at me with this kind of cockeyed expression, and I said, you just got to know to slice them across the grain. And now I have to tell my personal position has evolved somewhat as I have become more mellow.
I thought you were a troglodyte. How do you evolve?
Even feral hogs evolve in the wild within their own
This is true.
generation. So
now we're getting.
I have to say we were using. I think I told you we were using the Belgian draft horses for to pull our 6-pounder that made it look like a mountain howitzer in a episode of Battlefield Detectives. And these things they look like stegosauruses. And when I first saw them without my glasses on, because I didn't have my period glasses for the battlefield scenes that they were filming, I thought they were stegosauruses. And
pretty similar.
we had to use a ladder to put our guys on the lead horses so that they could be up there. And of course, when they plummeted off, and when we would unlimber the gun and fire it was pretty impressive. But I was personally given a horse that had been whispered at, with the horse whispering technique. And although I have to say that he was utterly useless for actual work.
Well, he's husband safe, so that's okay.
He was the only horse I ever got on that didn't try to kill me, and I really liked him. And if I
horses are telepathic, so
yeah,
they know that you want to eat them, so they're not.
We all have our horse stories, trust me.
Yeah. But I just wanted to make a public, maybe not apology, but mea culpa to Gordon that not all horses are evil and need to be eaten.
So I got to say, we actually met on this movie, Rough Riders, this Tom Berenger film, Rough Riders. The first thing we were doing was we were working on a gun crew. I had brought a French 75 out that belonged to a friend of mine, and he rented it to the movie company, and they didn't have enough transportation, so I just hauled it out myself. And we get there, and our boss, Riley Flynn, was saying, "Oh, I need a gun crew for you." And he just says, "Oh, you Taylor, you and you, Scott White, a few other guys." And so we're blasting away with that thing. And Terry Leonard was our second unit director, and he's the guy that did the Indiana Jones stunts, the cool ones. Fun guy. And he said, "Well, how big a boom can you make?" I don't know. Let's fill up this case. It's about, let's see, anyway, it's big. 75 millimeter case with gunpowder, because I had plenty with me. And so we filled this up, and I put a little wad of styrofoam to hold it in. And we actually got the hydraulics to work on that thing. with a blank, which is pretty impressive. And we got a call from the main unit saying to quiet down there a little bit, a little bit too loud.
We've blown it up.
Yeah, we were having fun. And then the next time we ran into each other, I don't know, a few days later, a week later, we're sitting in a trench on San Juan Hill, and both of us are tearing apart all our guys' Krag Jorgensen carbines, and we each have proper 3-piece cleaning rods, and we're cleaning them and look over at each other and say, "Oh, you know what you're doing there, don't you?" Cool. And so we've been fast friends ever since. So
It's the little things.
it's the little things, yeah. Oh, you can tear apart a Krag.
When one of the fellows, we had an instance where there was one group of guys that had showed up with these blanks, and they were stuffing a bunch of newspaper down in them for the other guy. And they were shooting those really fast, and a bunch of infantry had begun moving around in front of the gun, and we had to cease firing. Well, there was a round in the tube, and this guy, I can't remember his name. If he's still alive, I'd be amazed. He went running around in front of it because the breech was open, and he went running around in front of it with a rod, and he was going to push this loaded charge out on the ground from the front while there's smoldering newspaper in the barrel.
Yeah.
I think why you worried about him still being alive.
Down onto the newspaper, and Gordon and I and Richard the Strange and Mark Wheeler were there.
Yeah, Mark. Yeah.
And we were screaming at this idiot to get, not to do that, and they heard it on the tape, and they came running over there and said, "Oh, they heard you yelling at this guy." And okay, so you wanted us to let him get killed and pieces of him to fly out and injure the infantry out in front of him. Oh, well, no, we didn't want that.
Yeah,
I think that's when Gordon and I were first actually, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
we're the
Yeah.
we're the
we can
girls
yell at
here.
people in unison. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then we had another just hilarious experience. We were working on this little movie called 2 for Texas, and we got stuck in the mess tent because it was just pouring rain, and we all stank because we didn't have a chance to really dry out our uniforms because it was raining all the time. West or East Texas is like, ugh. Anyway.
It's moist over there. Very
Like East Texas. I like the Panhandle. That's
This is
pretty
one
cool.
of those incommunicable experiences that you had to be there.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
I had forgotten about me jumping up on a table and running around with my sword out and yelling at people.
Like you do.
Yeah, like I do. But one of our guys, this guy named Robert Normant, he jumped up on a table and he just recites the entire St. Crispin's Day speech from Henry V. It just stands there and does the whole thing. It's like, wow.
I got a little extra context here, okay? Because this is glorious. There was one group of extras that we were training. They were our troops essentially, and they were on one side of this giant tent, and we were all kind of on the other. And we didn't really mix together much, because they were scared of us mostly, and
For good reason.
and one of the assistant directors had come in, and we were just waiting for it to quit raining. And he'd come in with a megaphone and went and then Bob Normant jumps up and says, "I shall translate for the Polish contingent," and he begins yammering in Polish. And then Riley Flynn jumps up and he's yammering away in Russian. And then there was a Filipino kid who was a great guy. I can't remember his name, but he was yammering in Tagalog, and then there was people in Spanish, and it just turned into absolute babble. That's when Gordon jumped up on the table and went running down, hacking away with his saber. And then, in the middle of this pandemonium is when Bob Normant jumped up and I mean, did it straight. Normally he would do Shakespeare in Walter Brennan's voice or John Wayne's voice and have us rolling on the ground. But this time he did it straight. He did the St. Crispin's Day speech. And when he was finished, we all jumped up and went roaring out into the rain to kill something. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then we just came filtering back, I guess. I can't really remember what happened after that.
Well, and speaking of Riley Flynn, our boss, he had been a spook in the Air Force, rode around in airplanes and picked up radio stuff. He spoke very fluent Mandarin.
Yeah.
And we were working on another film called Ride with the Devil, which is really a cool movie. It's very underappreciated. It's about the border war between Kansas and Missouri during the Civil War. But the director was Ang Lee, who directed Sense and Sensibility and a bunch of other cool movies. And Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon stuff. Anyway, so you've got all these Hollywood types crowding around being, sycophants. And here comes this good old boy from Tennessee who's been in the Air Force for, 30 years. And now lives in Texas. So he just goes wandering over there and he starts yakking away in Mandarin with the director. And a lot of faces fell because they're like, what? How is this possible? Here's this, obvious, redneck yokel speaking Mandarin. What? Anyway, we had fun times doing crazy stuff like that. It was, we could probably go for hours and hours just talking about our crazy movie experience, which we
Yeah, let me interrupt before you get that far.
Why?
Why stop now?
To go, huh?
Why stop now?
Because I got an answer in the chat
Okay.
to Mike's question, and from Doug Irvin, which is actually correct. The whole thing with Vorskagin, or Vorskagin,
Vorkozigan.
whatever,
Them books.
them books, yeah, was that the decision was not to change the uniform and let the rebels wear whatever the armband they wanted to wear. That was the difference.
Okay.
But many times it comes down to what is available, as we talked about earlier. And one side may choose white, one side may choose red, but they want something that's visible at a distance.
Well, and classically, the militia or volunteers wear the old style uniform because that's what's available.
Right.
Whereas, regulars have the newer stuff. And since most of the time the regulars are on the side of the government in command, in charge at that moment, the militia, volunteers, rebels get the old stuff. Like the Confederates, they were in Confederate gray is militia gray.
Yeah, very much so. The reason I had to step out was got a call from Peter Grant.
Oh, how's he doing?
He wanted everybody to let everybody know that he's alive, well, and his quote unquote uniform is 33 steel staples.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's how many are
So
gluing him back together.
She managed to count all of them, huh?
I think Dorothy had to help.
I bet.
I can, from multiple personal experiences, you can count them as they go in.
Yeah.
You.
Pow, one, pow, two, pow,
So
three.
he said he wanted me to thank everybody for the donations. I really appreciate it. And they are getting by right now. Oh, and I have another note. It is Gordon and Nancy's 24th wedding anniversary.
Yes, it is.
So
Congratulations.
congratulations to y'all.
Thank you very much.
That's a damn long time for Nancy to put up with you.
Got that right. Yeah, well, she just didn't. She was too lazy to get rid of me. By the way, while we're talking about weird stuff, I want to do a shout out to for Nick Nethery
Yes.
for his. I just finished reading it last night. I love it. It is great. Basically,
No.
I read the only novels I ever read are either Taylor's, Larry Correa's, and now his. That's basically the only stuff I really read.
That's
I guess I'm dog food.
yeah,
Well, I read your stuff on, that you post on your old NFO stuff. I read that,
Yeah.
but I never sit down to read now. I'm too busy trying to find out what's going on in the world, which is really probably a stupid thing to do.
Yeah.
But
I took a look at what's going on with the world. I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
no, it's not good for your, for your mind.
I'm going to go hunting. Thank you.
Yeah. John Murphy.
I thought that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So, but Taylor, you've got other stories. You're nothing but stories. Come on. You Texans are all storytellers.
What I just found.
Well, most of them in recent years have to do with surviving encounters with.
Oh, nice.
Oh my gosh! Look at that. Yeah.
Nancy found this.
I just noticed it sitting here by the computer.
That's our gun
Hey,
crew.
Nancy.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that right there, let's see if I can do that. That is Taylor right there.
Yeah. Yeah. And,
From
and across
here.
from me is Mark Wheeler. And I've got another picture almost just like that with you in it, Gordon.
Oh, okay. Well, we
And
probably swapped around.
I'll have to send that. to you.
Gordon. There's Gordon.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they kind of overdid the black smudging.
They
if I
made them
recall.
so dirty.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Overdone.
But I gotta say this. I think I was the only guy carrying an actual Colt artillery model revolver and an actual Model 1896 Craig carbine. Well, Bob Erickson had one too, but that was it. Because for some close-up or another, the props guy that had to borrow mine. They'd have the right carbine.
Well, I built one that
did.
was
You did.
you made it. Yeah, I send you a picture of it. It started out. It was a 96 action that I had used for a doorstop for 20 years. And I had given away parts out of it for to people, and then Criterion started making those barrels, which were very, very good. And in fact, if you line up the witness marks on them, they're at least with the Crags. Now the 03 Springfields do require just a little bit of reaming for head spacing, but the Crags were head spaced right. As soon as you screwed it in, and it had the holes drilled and tapped for the rear sight, had the dovetail for the front sight, and it's a perfect brand new 96 Krag.
Yeah.
Well, I just picked up a 98 Krag carbine that has the metal's all there, but it's got the weirdest stock. It's an 03 Springfield stock that somebody beautifully filled the mag well for the 03. I mean, you can barely tell it's been done. And it's like, what the hell is this? But it was cheap. I had to have it. I've got it. Anyway.
Franklin gun.
Yeah.
It's you got to have weird stuff like that.
You talk about stocks. I remember years ago, we were, as high school kids, we had a guy that we knew that had a 40-foot trailer full of takeoff stocks.
Oh, wow.
M1 Garands, 03s, 03 A3s, M1 carbines, and M14s. The entire 40-foot trailer filled from top to bottom. So we got permission, quote unquote, to go up there and take a look at what he had. And we filled a 1960s Ford long bed pickup, slap full in the bed of stocks, the best ones we could find. All of them were matching.
Wow.
We came back and we were going to gun shows and selling those for $25 a piece.
Woo!
And thought we were in hog heaven.
And to Doug Irvin, yes, Craig Jorgensen is what we're talking about.
About 10 years ago, I go up to Wanamaker in Tulsa to the gun show, and I see one C stock for an 03A3. And the guy wants $500 for it.
Wow.
And he's going, well, it's the only one I got left. I sold the rest of them for more than this. And I just looked at my buddy and we both looked at each other and went, damn it.
Yeah.
We would have been rich if we'd hung on to those damn things.
Oh, well. Yeah, so would all of us with that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
The sporterized ones are the ones that get me. You know, I understand why people do it. And I understand why it got done, because they were cheap guns. You know, the Mausers, the 03s.
Yeah. They wanted a hunting rifle, but still.
Yeah. They wanted a hunting rifle.
Yeah.
And they wanted to cut down the weight because they didn't want to carry it.
Right.
I don't mind the sporterized if a gunsmith did it. What I hate is when Bubba takes his Dremel to it.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Yeah, Bubba is an evil fellow. You see some of the Mosins that come through, they're Bubba. Oh.
Yeah. Well, we have a saying that it's not a widespread saying, but when we see a pickup that has been chopped and lowered and otherwise rendered ineffective as a pickup, you know, we'll say, well, that fellow would cut a crag.
Oh, yeah.
What a terrible thing.
Yeah, the funny thing is the guards at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, one of their qualifications is that they have to make their own stock for their 03.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And they actually shave those down. If you ever get a chance to really look at the gun, it's a non-standard stock on it because it's missing the pistol grip.
I had not.
Yeah. Good. But they actually sit as part of their training when they're studying. That's what they do, is they're sanding on those stocks because they break them.
On 03?
Oh, yeah.
I
I
bet
see
they
why
do.
they break them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet they do.
Yeah. One of my former coworkers was a guard at the Tomb for two and a half years. So I got to actually take a tour of where they live and work underneath the tomb.
Oh, yeah.
And then a tour of Arlington. And it was really interesting because they have these racks with these 03s in them. And then shoved off in the corners was either 5 or 6 M16s.
Yeah.
They are
It's
just
like the
shoved in the corner because they
like
didn't have a rack to put them in.
The Swiss Guard has everything from halberds on to, you
Yeah.
know, submachine guns and assault rifles.
But it was funny when we were driving around because I was asking about some things and his wife was answering about half the time. And I finally looked around at her and I said, how do you, and before I could even get the question out of my mouth, she looked at me, smiled, and said, who do you think got that dumbass through the training?
Ow.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Truth.
But it was true.
That's for you, by the way.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, it's those little things that 99% of the world don't get a chance to see. You know, just like what you guys have talked about today. Stuff behind the scenes that nobody knows about.
Yeah, we've been blessed to be able to do a lot of absolutely insanely crazy things. Like I've managed to scale the walls of the Alamo, get blown up at the Alamo,
Yeah.
die on both sides. I've got to do cavalry charges. I mean, Chris Fisher, who we've talked about before, he says he uses a scene from Ride with the Devil as to how to properly ride, because there's a great scene with the Union cavalry coming over the hill.
Yeah.
And I'm dead center because I'm in command. And I'm telling guys to, go right and left. And he said, see that guy? That's how you ride. Which, of course, there's a story from that, too. I was helping a group of guys doing Buffalo Soldiers in Portland. And I was riding with them in a parade, this Rose Parade. And I could hear one of the guys in the back, because I get to be the white officer, one of the guys in the back saying, why does he ride like he's got a ramrod stuck up his and said, this is an effing officer, you idiot.
Yeah.
These guys are all cowboys, and and they were riding, slouched over like a cowboy.
Yeah.
I was riding, cavalry style.
Shoulders back,
Yeah.
heels down.
Exactly. You got to do it right if you're going to do it at all. But anyway, yeah, fun stuff. I've gotten to do some really, really cool things in my life.
The thing is, these are all things people can use in their writing
Mhm.
to add a little bit of accuracy, add some humor in some cases. I mean, the story about getting up and going up and down the table in multiple languages is just friggin' hilarious.
I'd forgotten all about that part.
Yeah.
I remember Bob Norman, but I'd forgotten about all the other stuff. Taylor's got a better memory for that.
And there's so many things that I have included in my stories that happened either at reenactments or on movie sets. Gordon will love this one. When you're cleaning muskets, and all of a sudden it just kind of devolves into spraying each other with the vent juice, the black ooze out of the vent, and somebody will be sitting there minding their own business, and all of a sudden, and you pour water down the barrel, and you run the jag down and squirt black juice, pee at him with this stuff.
Oh yeah,
we do this to people that the first time they're on our gun crew. A lot of the time we'll have them stand behind the vent.
Yeah. Well, don't talk to Nancy about this stuff, because Nancy had to clean every single musket that was used on the Patriot. Yeah, she had to clean them every day.
Why?
Because they got dirty.
Yeah.
She was one of the armorers. Nancy was actually one of the armorers on the movie The Patriot. And so she hates flintlock muskets. Okay, she doesn't hate them. She didn't like them.
Yeah.
But she got to clean every single one of them suckers every day. And they had like, how many hundreds of them? A lot.
Yeah.
600, 700 of them, something like that.
Oh, goodness.
See,
So, yeah.
in the Army, the armorer was the one that said, not clean enough, try again.
What the armorer finally did was he rented a heated pressure washer. And we would line all the muskets up. We had Charlevilles and Brown Besses, and we'd line them all up on a table, and then come along with that wand and go fuzja, 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 with really hot water. And then one of us would come along and tip them all, send them all nose downward in the rack so they'd drink. And then you'd put the next batch down and do the same thing. It saved so much time, and so my thumbs didn't work right for like 2 years from scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing and scrubbing. Yeah. It was a paycheck.
Yeah. She got to be an armorer on the Patriot, though. So,
yeah. And on that note, folks, we've wasted another hour of your time today.
Yay!
Gentlemen and lady, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much.
Taylor and I could talk about all kinds of
great seeing you.
I think we will arrange this again.
Yes, we need to do this.
We need to arrange this again.
We will have fun.
But I thank you both for coming on. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
And y'all have a great day.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, absolutely.
You too.
Bye. Okay. Woof.
Indeed, Wolf.
End the stream.
Yeah, and that's it for today, folks. We'll be back on Thursday. However, sadly, it'll just be me and Ian.
I don't usually come on Thursday. I mean, if you want me to, I'll show up.
There we go. Done.
All right. Remember, don't sweat the petty stuff. Don't pet the sweaty stuff. And we'll see you later, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.